everybody. Welcome to this workshop that I'm doing tonight. My name is Maureen. I am the owner and founder and everything of BarMD. Not everything. I have a lot of staff and other attorneys that work with me for me. But I'm the owner of BarMD. So thank you so much for taking some time to come here. I'm going to give you all some tips on really where you should be now, ideally. And if you're not there, how do you get caught up? Just to sort of give you all, I really wanted to give people benchmarks and some structure on what they should be doing right now and from now sort of until the bar. So that's really what I wanted to focus on today. It is really just and answer questions. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section so I can answer those, and I'll reserve that for the end. I'm going to get you in and out of here just to make this an efficient use of your time. So goals for today, I want you to know where you should be and know how to get where you need to be. So those are the two things. And the should is very loose. So all right, we want to talk about where should you be ideally, and that can be different for different people. So keep that in mind and know how to get where you need to be. And then I'm also going to show you guys some really effective study tools. I'm super excited because I have written 3 new books that a lot of you have seen, or maybe have. We have our hard copies now. Now they're in print form. So really excited about those. I'll show those to y'all today as well. So first thing I want to talk about is memorization. So one of I think the biggest thing, falsities that is spread or falsehoods that is talked about with the bar is, oh, you'll memorize in the last 2 weeks before the bar. That is not true. There is not enough time to memorize everything in the last 2 weeks. Or people say, oh, everything comes together in the last 2 weeks. I just don't think that that's true at all. I definitely think that it is to your benefit to do some memorizing and do it every single day. Thanks, Irene. So do a little bit every day, 30 minutes to an hour minimum. And it depends on if you're working and studying or just studying. And if you're studying, maybe you're spending a little bit more time. But the memorization needs to be active. It needs to be you quizzing yourself, writing out rules, writing essays is part of memorizing, and doing MBEs is part of memorizing. But really, I think for most people, one of the most effective things, even if you didn't do it in law school or do it before, it can be very effective to do flashcards for the bar or use flashcards. I know Critical Pass flashcards are really good. I have some if you're in my full bar prep. We do have some, so some of you may have those, but just whatever it is that you need to do to memorize. And one thing that I say with memorizing, a big thing that I like to hammer just a lot in every class that I teach and free workshops that I do, everything, is that you're memorizing, especially for the essays. And that's really what the memorization is focused on. For the rules for the MBE, it's really on a focus on understanding. Also, I think it's more that, which is also just if you really understand something, you have memorized it too, but being able to regurgitate your rules. So the least effective thing to do to memorize is to read outlines. It feels very effective because you read it, you feel like you understand it, but that is actually the least effective way to memorize. It is much more effective to quiz yourself, quiz somebody else, go for a walk with your flashcards. Maybe if you memorize by listening, then that can help. I have podcast episodes you can listen to that give you just short reviews of the law. So you want to do a bit of that every single day, 6 days a week, every day that you're studying. So I just say start doing that now, work on it. It will help you. But also that writing is memorizing, and writing your essays closed note and timed, particularly closed note, but definitely timed also, just because it's a much better use of your time than doing them untimed. But doing the writing, doing the practice, that's memorizing. How memory works, it literally is every time you force yourself to recall a rule, it gets ingrained a bit deeper and you will recall it faster. So this is also at this point, you really want to be looking at your timing. You want to be looking at your timing for essays, making sure that you can finish an essay in an hour. And when I say finish an essay, maybe it's not exactly how you want it to be, but you can finish an essay and make strategic decisions about how you are going to get the most points, even if you don't have time to do everything that you want to do. So you have to practice that. So right now, that's why I wanted to do this workshop now, is because right now is when some things should be shifting, hopefully a little bit. And if they're not shifting, I'm going to tell you to shift them that way. That's why I wanted to do this workshop today, because it's, we're about 6 weeks out, which is still a lot of time. But definitely start doing the memorizing. And with it, don't do memorization of full sentences. So something I talk about in my essay workshops and talk about just in generally, but primarily in the essay workshops, I talk about memorizing. You just want to memorize the buzzwords from the rule. What are the words that you need to incorporate into your analysis? Negligence, right? The 4 elements are duty, breach, causation, damages. Each of those has their own sub rules with their own buzzwords as well. But you want to really just memorize the buzzwords, because every rule can basically be written as there is X when Y. So there is negligence when there is duty, breach, causation, and damages. So when you're memorizing, focus really on the buzzwords from the rule. So start doing this now. So definitely start doing the memorizing now. Dedicate, dedicate a decent chunk or, a portion of your time each day to memorizing. And maybe this is what you do at the end of the day when you're a little bit more tired. And maybe if you're working or you've done a lot of writing of essays and PTs and MBEs during the day, then at the end of the day, when you're tired and you feel like you can't write anymore or do any more MBEs, then switch gears and do a bit of memorizing, because you can still usually get that in. And also changing the task that you're doing, going from doing essays to doing a PT, or going from essays or PTs to an MBE or to a set of MBEs, and then going to memorization, that can actually, that's called interleaving. And that can actually make it so that you can get more done in a day versus just trying to write 8 essays in a day or 4 or doing 200 MBEs. Like, that is just exhausting and you won't have any more energy. But if you switch up the tasks that you do and do a bit of each day, it's better for you. You get more out of your studying. You can stay more attentive and focused. So a couple little tips there. Writing essays. So ideally, you should have reviewed all of the MBE subjects by now. Right? So reviewed all of the MBE subjects by now, at least in your review. And when I say review, so, you don't need to do a big deep dive. If you're repeating, you shouldn't be watching those essay lectures. If you are, stop it. And if you are watching the lectures, if this is your first time taking the bar, then maybe you are watching those lectures, and that's okay. But look to see, can you watch them on a little bit faster speed? Because the goal is so that you can actually be doing lots and lots and lots of actual practice. So ideally for California, you have finished PR and remedies also. Ideally, you've also finished PR and remedies. PR is tested, as most people know, on every single bar. It's required by California law to be tested on the bar exam for each administration. Remedies is the second most frequently tested subject, and they will do it 4 times in a row. It doesn't matter if it was just tested the last 3 bar exams. They will do it a 4th time without hesitation. I'm not saying that they are going to do it, but it is the second most frequently tested subject, and one that they don't hesitate to do a lot. That being said, they also, within remedies, they like to hit contract remedies a bit more. Yeah, but there can be contract remedies, tort remedies, also some property stuff, but primarily contracts and torts. And you want to aim to finish your review. And I put review in quotes because I just want to talk about what that is too, of all the subjects, including the California subjects, by the end of January. Ideally, you're spending the entire month of February really not doing any review, just doing practice. Like, every single day is just doing practice and switching it up. So when I say review, that's like, it's like when, if you're retaking the bar the first time you watch the videos, and sometimes you're like, oh, I can't do anything until I know the law. And I get that feeling. I do understand that feeling, and I get that. But you know a lot more than you think you do. I promise you know more than you think that you do. And the way to identify what you know and what you don't know is by doing the practice, and by doing it close note in time. So that's incredibly important. It's incredibly important. So is everybody doing okay that I've said that? Finished all of your MBE subjects by now, and ideally PR and remedies too. It's okay if you're in the midst of that. But try to get through your review of everything. Just, maybe it's a simple review. Maybe you're using my quick sheets to review, and I'll show you guys those in a little bit as well. But your review should be very simple because you really want to get to doing the practice. When I talk about essay practice too, so you're like, I can't, maybe somebody's like, I can't write an essay. I haven't reviewed that yet. And that, I understand that feeling. And what I say to that is okay, fine. So go to try to write an essay, write the essay. If you see that there is an issue and you're like, I know I don't know that rule at all, but take the essay, do what you do know. Don't write the wrong rules for stuff you don't know, but do what you do know, and then say, okay, and even if it's like you remember 2 of the elements but not the other, it may come to you as you're writing. So failing to try is a problem. So just at least try and get going. And I know that it's discouraging to do that and to see an essay where you just are going to do terribly on. I get it. It sucks. But that's how you identify what you don't know. And then you know that you need to hammer that, add that into your memorization for that evening. So your review should be simple. It shouldn't be a big in-depth review where you're going over and reading outlines, because that is the least effective way to memorize, is just to read outlines. So essay practice, close note, timed, incredibly important. Timed because, if somebody's spending 2 hours, 3 hours writing an essay, that's just not very effective, because in that time you could have, written the essay, read the answer, and then rewritten it. So, and that is a really good review. So especially that's more for if you're not working full time. If you're working part time or studying full time, it's easier to do that, to write an essay and then rewrite it, and that's completely okay. And then doing a closed note because you want to ideally, test yourself. So force yourself. That's where the memorization comes in. And like you might sit there for a second and not remember something, but that's where the memorization comes in because it will come to you. And if it doesn't, then you're going to work on that. So if you're studying full time, you should be doing, ideally, if you're studying full time, you should be kind of touching 3 subjects a day. So I want you to write 2 essays a day and do 2 different subjects for essay writing. And then if you're doing a third subject of memorization, maybe you're doing some memorization on what the subjects you covered today, and maybe also introduce a third subject too that you're going to cover tomorrow. So doing a little bit of review today for what you might cover tomorrow. If you're working, I want you to do 1 essay a day, fully written, closed note timed. And the biggest part of doing this is the review. The review to check, did I use every single fact? And I mean every little fact for California. If you're a UBE, did you use as many facts as you could? How much was left out? What didn't you use? And if you're a UBE, because I know that there are some of you, this was really designed a little bit more for California, but if you're a UBE, I would say that you should be doing 2 essays a day minimum, just general, even if you're working, and 3 if you are studying full time. California, though, if you're working, do 1 essay a day, fully written, and do a second essay in a different subject where you're just going through and issue spotting it. Not just like identifying the legal issues, but setting it up, doing your skeletal outline. Maybe you're trying to just write the rules for those issues, getting it all set up, placing the facts in the appropriate place to make sure that you've identified, where all the facts go, that you understand that, and then checking each of those essays after you write each individual one. And it usually takes, for me, when I was grading myself, and I would say for an average student, it usually takes at least 30 minutes to do a deep dive for California, maybe UBE a little bit less, but it takes at least 30 minutes to review your essay. I probably more like 45 minutes to an hour. And that is normal. So if it takes you that long, that's okay. That's completely normal. And if you're uncomfortable with essays, so a few things. So we have Mastering the California Essays and Mastering the MEE. We have those classes. They're getting close to being done. We have a few more of them, but you can join them live still, but we also have it where you can just watch the recording of the live class, and that's $4.99. We also have, I just want to show you guys, and I'm going to show you on the screen, but you can get it a hard copy now. It's the essay book that I wrote for California. I know a bunch of you here have it, but I'll share the screen and show you what it is. It is templates for how to write any issue on the bar. So let me just pull it up and show y'all. So it's like templates for writing the analysis for any issue too. And I give you tons and tons of tips. So I'm going to talk about this too. Let me go here. So here's like the table of contents. One thing that's really good about the books, in my opinion, granted I wrote them, so I'm biased. I tell you there's a whole intro telling you how to write, the steps to writing, and I give you writing formulas, and a study schedule, etc. So that's in here. Here, there's a ton after the schedules. I go into explaining each of the elements, a step-by-step process, etc. Thanks, Gina. So one thing that is good about the book is you can see here this is really all of things that I excluded from the book, and the templates is stuff that's been tested like once. So I know there was an essay that came up a couple years ago now that tested just a very strange issue in business associations. So like that I didn't include because the likelihood of it coming up again is very unlikely. If you've ordered a hard copy of the book, you should have gotten it. So send us an email at hello@bar-md.com if you haven't gotten it yet. And I'm going to let my team know too right now. So you can go through this and you can say, okay, am I comfortable with all of these issues here? And you can go through it. So you can use this as a checklist to see, are you comfortable writing these issues? Or this could be your review. So your review of a subject should be a couple of days going through, reading all of this, and making sure you're comfortable with it. And then let's say, for example, and for California, there's all the California federal distinctions. All of the subjects are in here. So let's say, for example, you want to see how to write duty of fairness. So let me zoom in a little bit just because it is a slightly smaller font. So in the book, there's literally templates on how to write any issue. So duty of fairness, and you fill in the blank here, attorney did or did not behave honestly because facts and reasoning. So you just fill this part in and you fill out the conclusion part here. I gray out rules. I do gray out rules. If you're only going to include a rule, if it's triggered by the facts. So, I gray that out. Or if you can cut a rule to save time because maybe you don't have time to do it. So there's grayed out rules to help you save time. There's also like this is an example of one. Where did it go? I just saw it. I think it's larceny. Maybe I lost it. Anyhow, there's also all sorts of footnotes and shortcuts for writing. So like, for example, larceny. Larceny is usually a fairly small issue. It's usually a pretty small issue. So I show you, okay, if it was a really big issue, you would do it like this, where you're gonna, break it apart, etc. And I give you all the little rules so that you can understand it. But in reality, on the bar, you're gonna probably do it like this. So I show you a faster way to do it too. So I really want to focus on strategy and making sure you guys can finish your essays. So that's what I do. So there's stuff like that all throughout the book too. So if you have trouble writing your essays, this can really help you, especially if you struggle with the analysis. I usually see when people are like, oh, I don't understand why I got a 55, it's missing issues, or people show me their essays and it's not really analyzing the issues. And so, they're getting a 55 because of that, because it's lacking in analysis. So this book really is designed to correct for that and show it really simplifies kind of everything, takes the thinking out of, I think, a lot of the essay writing, or it lets you focus all of your energy on understanding the facts of the fact pattern. So just wanted to show everybody that. Also for memorizing, we also have, and somebody had asked to know the difference between the quick sheets, which I will show everybody in 1 second, and the essay book. So these are totally, totally different materials. So the quick sheets are much more for memorization. And it's really all of the subjects. So it's all of the subjects and it's just everything organized. So it's everything that is organized for you. So just to like really aid your memorization. And I'm going to give you all just the link too for the book. I'll just give you the link to the shop page. The book is on here and everything I'm going to show you is on here. And the books, just FYI, the quick sheets you can print out. There's some specific instructions for printing them you have to watch out for. But these you can print out, so you can just use these, have a walk, do some memorization. But these will really help you starting like now. And it's just, I like to organize things in a particular way. And so I try to be very consistent to help aid in your memorization. So that's all in here. And every subject is 4 pages or less. So that's that. Those are the quick sheets. We also do have our essay course still, which you can still join. The quick sheets are, you can get them on the website. They're on the shop page. I think you just have to scroll down. I can put the link into it. Let's see. Here's the link for the quick sheets because somebody just asked for it. And then here is the link for the book. So for the book, you can get the book. You can get a hard digital version. You always get the digital version, so you can access it basically immediately. There's the link just for the essay book. So you can access it immediately. But if you want to order a hard copy, we are shipping them now. We have them all. We're shipping them all via UPS now. The essay book started shipping a few weeks ago. So there's that. We also have this platform called SARX. So if you really want to practice your essays and you want to make sure that you're hitting all of the major topics that you need, you can absolutely do that. And so with SARX, so let me show y'all what it is. So, I showed that table of contents and we have this for the UBE too. So I showed you the table of contents for the book. So here is SARX. So this is my platform that we created, and we have every California bar essay from 2021 or 2020 back, 2021. And we're getting the last couple of years in there as well, but back to like into the 80s. And for the UBE, there's every single available essay in there in PT. So it has all of the subjects. It also has PTs in here. And what you can do is you can click on any subject, and on the left here, you'll see subcategories within each subject. So if you want to make sure that if you want to see a joinder essay, you can click and see, okay, these essays test you on joinder. So it'll test you on other stuff too, but you know that joinder is going to be an issue because you want to make sure that you are comfortable with all of the major issues. These are really all of the major issues. And we have this for every subject. If you want to do a discovery essay, here's one. It also tells you if it's a crossover. So like this tested evidence in PR. So then let's click on an essay. So it gives you the fact pattern here. Gives you the fact pattern. We have for California, there's the 2 selected answers. And then we also have our issue checklist. This is different from bar essays for those of you that have bar essays. It's different. I'm not going to recreate what Gil did so well already with bar essays. So what this is it's different because it's a focus on categorizing the essays by their subtopic. So if you want to make sure that you're covering the range of topics that are really tested and really highly tested in every single subject, this is what you can do to make sure that you're not just like blindly grabbing torts essays and that you're not, you want to make sure you're seeing all of the frequently tested topics. And then what we have is, this is what I like. So my approach is always, when I'm teaching, I want to tell you, how do you get, what do you just need to do to pass? What is the minimum necessary to pass? And so that's what I want to show you, is what do you need to do at a minimum? And so this issue checklist tells you the issues you needed to address at a minimum. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a passing answer just for addressing these issues. You have to also deal with them in depth and go into detail, raise counter arguments as necessary. But that's what this is. And I'll put the link to everybody for that right here too. And yeah, okay, I'm going to go back. I see there's a couple of questions. I also have some workshops on the essays that are on my YouTube. That's totally free. I also have a podcast that is also totally free that you can listen to. I'll get the link for it. Yeah, and the purpose of the checklist, is to help for rule memorization. It's also to make sure that you're just covering the scope. And ideally, you will have written 5 essays in every single subject in full, close note timed, and have issue spotted more. So that's what you want to do ideally. Let's talk about PTs. So essays takes the longest for me to get through. Then in every counter argument, you should have at least one, or in every essay, at least one counter argument, and ideally 2. And it's like the one best counter argument, not just any counter argument, like the toughest one. And ideally you'll have 2. So for PTs, you want to have written at least 8 total by the time of the bar. So you have to calculate, okay, how many have I written so far? And doing them timed, actually finishing them, etc. And make sure you have done at least 1 memo, a letter to a client, a brief, a letter to opposing counsel, and a closing argument. Those are the 5 really common PT tasks. So you want to do that. You want to make sure that you can do all of those. You know what they look like. I do give you templates for those. I do, just like we have for the essay course. I have a PT course that I teach, and we have 2 more live, but you can watch everything and you can do it recorded, and a lot of people like it. And even if you joined it live, you can still watch the recording. You obviously get access to that too. I also have my PT book, which is also available in hard copy now. So I'm really, really happy that that's here. Also, if you previously bought the digital version, you can let us know, and we can also send you a hard copy, and you just pay the difference for the hard copy. So that is available too. I also have a bunch of PT videos on YouTube, which is totally free as well. So just wanted to mention that. So PTs, and then MBEs. Okay, so the goal with MBEs is to get to approximately 2,000 before the bar. I know some people are like, oh, get to 5,000 questions. I don't believe in that. I think that what happens there is that you then start to memorize questions and you're getting them right. And it's a bit false, because you're getting questions right and your scores look really good, but it's because you've memorized the questions. We don't want that to happen. So you need to calculate how many questions a day do you need to do. So, and keep in mind, you should be doing at least 2 half mocks before the bar. You should be doing 2 half-day mocks. So, and I'm telling people, like, generally speaking, I think it's a really good idea. If you do a mock exam. So like this coming weekend, so the 20th and 21st, which I can't believe that's this weekend. So on Saturday, do 3 essays back to back where you don't know what they are. On Sunday, do 100 MBEs. So do a mock exam Saturday and Sunday, and that's going to be really good. So you can see how you're doing with managing your time. You can see how you are just in terms of endurance. So that's a really good idea. And then also the following weekend, repeat that. But Saturday, do 2 essays in a PT, and Sunday, do another 100 MBEs. So keep in mind, and then maybe not the next weekend, but sometime between, the 3rd and the 11th, do a full mock exam. We offer at BarMD a full graded, for the written portion, full graded mock exam where we're going to go in and grade your 5 essays and your PT. That's something we offer. It's limited. It's limited to the number of people we will do it for, but we have a mock exam. And here I'll put the link if you guys want to check that out. It's one that we put together for the upcoming bar exam specifically as well. And yeah, and people want to see the PT book. I will show the PT book. Give me 1 second. So let me show you all the PT book. I'm really proud of it. So here is the performance test book. So what I did is I really walk you through all of the steps of writing a PT. I like to really break it down. I like also a lot of visual examples. So what I do is I do stuff like this. There's a study schedule. So I like to give you examples for, how to write. I like to break down, and then I like to do some color coding so you can see, like, this is my, formula for writing part of the PT. And then I like to give you, samples of writing the analysis, putting it all together, color coding. So there's a lot just really with instruction in the beginning. So the first 5 chapters are all pretty much that. So then what it has is there's, I don't know, 10, 11 PTs in here. So for the PTs, what I do is, oh, that's a sample of my marked up. So what I've given you for each chapter. So there's the PTs that are here. And we're actually going to hyperlink it too, but you want to get the PT and you want to practice it before you start, right? And so you want to do the PT. And then what the book is designed to do is to show you, I give you my file in my library that's marked up. So you can compare, did you extract the right rules? Did you identify the appropriate things here? So this is literally like what mine looks like when I finished. So you can compare the file and you can compare the library and what I do and what mine looks like. And which I walk you through this in the beginning so that all of these annotations should make sense to you. So I walk you through this. I highlight, I keep consistent with the color coding. I don't suggest that you actually highlight on the bar. I suggest that you just annotate with writing. I do the highlighting just for visual impact for the reader. And a lot of people like the visual display. It just helps to understand. So then I give you a little bit of a breakdown of the PT and some of the issues you might have experienced. And then I show you step by step, putting it together, what it should look like. So this is like after step, 2, after step 4, after step 5, and then the final draft, what it looks like. And I try to keep my PTs to being like solidly written, like a 70, 75, not to be a perfect score. So, I really want mine to be attainable. I really want mine to be attainable. So that's what I do in the entire PT book, is really walk you through, give visual examples, talk to you, about how to write them specifically. So that's a sample of the PT book. So it's different than other ones that are out there because of all of the annotation. And I think the instruction as well is just so detailed. But you get my marked up file and library. And I recommend outlining, Grace, do you mean on essays? On the PTs, if you're doing the PT and you're doing the step-by-step, that's all on the computer. That's all done on the computer. Yeah. So I just start putting it together after each step. After certain steps, there are certain parts that you just write that are actually just part of your PT. And let me go back. So now let's get back to the MBEs. So approximately 2,000 questions. So you need to calculate how much have you done. Keep in mind that you should do 400 questions just in mock exams between now and February 11th at the latest. So, and then that aside, doing the 25 to 33 or 50, I hopefully not 50, because that's a lot. I think 50 a day is actually a lot too much to then have time to really thoroughly go through it. So calculate what you need to do to get there. And really, the thing that I would say is to do the most with each MBE question is really digging deep into every MBE question and each answer option to really understand how certain issues are triggered, what words triggered certain issues, etc. Like, what made you pick that incorrect answer? Was it a particular word that you missed? Was it reading comp? Were you reading too quickly? Did you really not know the law? Did you misapply it? Like, what happened? And so that you don't make that same mistake again. And also, I recommend for everybody, there's a book that I like called it's called Federal Civil Procedure for the MBE. And I'll put a link also for this. I just think it's a really good book. And the reason I say that for civil procedure is because there's only about 60 real civil procedure questions. There's only about 60 real civil procedure questions. And so because of that, a lot of the questions you'll see in AdaptAbar, UWorld, in my MBE program are ones that are written by CivPro professors or people that are experts in CivPro. But the MBE questions are real ones, just go through such a thorough vetting process that it's good to have a diversity of resources for civil procedure particularly. I don't think you need it for anything else, but that book that I put the link in the chat, that book is an incredibly good resource. So I just want to point that out. I also have my MBE class, and I think what's different about my MBE class, and all of the classes are recorded. We've done 6 of the 8 so far. I really try to focus. So what I do in the class is we talk about each subject. So the first, we talk about, MBE strategy. And when I was writing my MBE book, which I have here, so this is big MBE book, which comes with 410 questions in it, organized. So What's different about it is that like I know all the tips that are out there. So I'm trying to identify what are like what's new, what haven't you probably heard yet or noticed yet. I'm focusing on the patterns and what triggers certain things, how they trick you, etc. So that and in the MBE minutia class, I'm also walking you through questions, showing you how to apply the techniques and strategies that I suggest. And for a lot of people, like, somebody today told me they're like, yeah, they were really, they're like, can I really learn anything new? Can I get any new tips for the MBE? And you definitely can. And they were like, so happy they said that they did the class because it was just a lot of stuff that they hadn't heard before. And like, I'm demonstrating how do you diagram and take notes? What are the things to watch out for in particular questions? So that class is really, has really been popular. And a lot of people are getting really good results and I'm tracking that too. So here's the link if you want to join that. The classes are 2 hours, the sessions are 2 hours each. So it's not, my other classes are 3 hours, so it's not as much of a time commitment. And then I also have my MBE book, which is what made me actually want to do the class, which I'll put a link to here and I'll show everybody. So what's different, even if you like, you need to focus on like a few subjects, you can use the book just for a few subjects. So something, like, so what it is I walk you through the subject. So what I do is I walk you through the black letter law. So like if we go to jurisdiction and venue, it's going to give you all the black letter law for jurisdiction and venue. And there's tips in these black boxes. And there's sometimes tips within the text, but I primarily try to put the tips in these black boxes. And then, so you get all of the black letter law for this particular topic, venue, service of process and notice. And then there's MBE questions that are real. And I can't show those because of licensing, but there's MBE questions testing you on all the law you've just reviewed. So it's really designed to help you like understand the law, break it into bite-sized pieces, and then do questions targeting that black letter law so you can see how it's tested. So that it helps to speed up the understanding and the pattern identification process of MBEs. And it has 410 questions with the answer explanations. And so yeah, it has all of those questions and everything in there. So, and I hear this, so somebody asked in the chat, and I hear this a ton, that the answer choices for the MBEs from February and July 23 were so much different. I've heard that for 10 years, longer than that. Like everybody says that, and it's not. So one thing I want to say is if you feel that way when you walk out of the bar, it's one, remember there's 25 experimental questions. So there's 25 experimental questions. And we tend to focus on the stuff that was like unfamiliar, and that's what we remember. So they might look a lot different, but that might be the experimental questions. So don't forget that. We're also not remembering all of the questions that were really easy for you to do, right? It's just like we tend to focus like, like I get my like, comments on my YouTube videos, right? And like there's so many nice, positive, nice things. I get so many like wonderful things that are said. And then there's that one person or two people that like say something negative, and that's all I think about, right? If you're like, maybe you're all not like me and like focus on the one negative. But it's hard to not do that. And so that happens with the MBE too. So yes, some will look different. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're all different. And a lot of these are good indicators, especially all of the most recent questions. So the 2021 and the 2017 sets. Also, I put this picture to soothe you if you're feeling burnt out. This is my dog Archie, who's sleeping next to me on my desk. So if you're feeling burnt out, now is the time to take a break. So if you need to take a full day off, like take it very soon. Take it as soon as you can. And at least take one evening off each week, particularly for those of you that are working. And I know it feels harder for those of you that are working because you don't get all that time during the day, but you need to do it. Otherwise, you're going to burn out and you're not going to be as effective studying if you're just pushing through and pushing through and pushing through. Like if stuff isn't sinking in, if you feel it, if you're exhausted, and like I have felt burnout where I literally wanted to take my books and smash them out a window. Like I remember sitting in the library in law school and wanting to take my textbook and literally break a window with it because I was just so sick and tired of looking at it. And I was just like I will never forget like how I was like, oh, this is burnt. This is what that feels like. So take a break now if you can, and you should, so that you don't get burnt out later. Like it's better to take it now than later. Take at least one evening off each week. And I really do mean that. And take the Monday before the bar off. I say that a bit because like I know that a lot of people won't, but if you're going to do a little bit of studying, just make it a little bit of passive review, maybe review your flashcards or whatever it is. Do a little bit of passive review. Maybe you're reviewing my quick sheets and stop at noon. Stop at noon and like do something that like helps the brain like reset a bit. Also, if you're feeling burnt out, something that can really help is if you plan something to look forward to after the bar. So like that's a very good idea to do and plan that now so that because it can help you be like, okay, after the bar, like I'm going to go see all my girlfriends one night. Yeah. And the MBE book they're all real questions. Yeah. They're all licensed questions. That's why the book is expensive, is because We have so many, all of the most recently released questions are in here. So you can see them and it's typed and you can really practice. I wanted them printed so you can practice on the handwritten version. Somebody asked, does it matter of the order of answering the essay questions? I say to just go in order that they're given. You have an hour for each essay question. You have 90 minutes for the PT. You have to do all of it. If you don't, like if you spend time looking at what's easiest and what's harder, it's just kind of a waste of time. So I don't like to change the order. And then I just wanted to leave you guys on a positive note. There's still a lot of time, right? There is still a lot of time. You still basically have 6 weeks to go, which is a month and a half. That's a good solid chunk of time. Hopefully a lot of you, if you're working, hopefully you get some time off or can like just work a little bit less than, than you are. But that is still a lot of time. And I always like to say, like, think about how much more you know now than you knew a month. Think about how much more you know now than you knew a week ago, right? And you're going to do that like 5, 6 times over. You're going to do that 5 or 6 times over. Oh, one thing I forgot to talk about. 2 weeks before the bar, this I didn't put in the slides because I forgot. 2 weeks before the bar, I do a session called Final Forecast. If you're in the essays course, you already get this, or if you're in core or anything like that. But we have our Final Forecast. We have it for the California and for the UBE. So this is what I do. I don't do predictions, but what I do is I go through every single subject and I talk about what has not been tested recently. I talk about the frequently tested topics you need to know, what hasn't been tested so that it's ripe for testing, meaning you should really know these particular things. And I put together an essay packet testing you on all of that stuff. You get a last 2 week study schedule, incorporating that packet of essays, telling you what to do. We practice all of, like, I give you tips for the MBE. Like if you really don't know what to do and you have to guess, how do you do that better? We practice that. We also practice making up rules. We practice, what do you do when you get an essay and you just don't know what to do? We go through all of that stuff. There's sort of like nightmare scenarios, so that like when that happens, because you will have some of that, like there is going to be an essay that you're just going to be like, what the heck to? So that will happen. And we want you to be prepared for that. So in my Final Forecast session, which is $50, it's about 2 hours and it's 2 weeks before the bar. So it's the Tuesday, 2 weeks before the exam. Irene, send me an email on that. If you're a handwriter, send me an email on that to hello@bar-md. If you guys have questions, you can email us there at hello@bar-md.com. So that Final Forecast session is super popular and people have loved it. And like, I'm not going to say like my predictions are correct. I don't do predictions, but I do know that like the big topics that we've been expecting, and I've given you people essays to practice, said you really should do this. This hasn't come up in like 15 years. We're waiting for this particular topic, like products liability. Products liability, we hadn't had a complete products liability essay for 20 years almost, or maybe it was like 15 years. So like, we're like, that's a huge, really essay friendly topic. So that you should absolutely know. Like before that, within the year before, we had said like homicide hasn't come for a while. So really just, you really want to do that. The PT, if you have the PT class, it doesn't include the Final Forecast. It doesn't include that. If you are a handwriter, it may not, I don't know about if it's too late to switch to laptop. You have to reach out to the Cal Bar for that. So just reach out to them ASAP, Abdul. I would just send an email on that. Our mock exam, somebody had asked earlier, is there a limit? You have to have it submitted no later than 11:59 p.m. on February 11th so that we can get it back to you so you can implement the feedback we give you. And the sooner you turn it in, the better. The sooner you turn it in, the better. And then any more questions? I think I answered all the ones that were typed. I did. Oh, and the podcast link. Yes. I haven't recorded new episodes. I was really wanting to, but I got really, really sick earlier that took me out for a few weeks. But let me give you all here's the link to the podcast episodes. Yeah, the podcast is free. Yeah. The Final Forecast is not included with them. It's only included with the essays course because it was initially just part of that class and we didn't offer it outside of that. Now we've taken it out or opened that one class up. Yeah, there's the podcast. It's totally free. I'm going to try to record some episodes coming up. All right, that's it, everybody, for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. If you guys have questions, please email us at hello@bar-md.com. And feel free to reach out. My team, we do have people working like 6 days a week, basically, answering questions, etc. I mean, I'm always working, but yeah, just feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope this was helpful. And hopefully we'll see you guys some of the classes or, with the books, etc. But thank you so much. Good luck in your studying. I really mean that. I just want all of you to do well. Yeah. So good luck. Thanks, everybody. Bye.